my text outside of my frame. So now, even though it's still on top of the frame, it's outside of it. So I can decide to move this, and you see, instead of it staying inside, it's just going to move outside of the frame, basically. So this is where you see everything you are doing, So this is the group that we grouped earlier, and then we can decide to change the name of our frame. So we can say this is the landing page, right? And say this splash screen. So it's very good that we name our layers, basically. So this is the layers. So we can decide to name our layers. It's very good thing to name our layers so that developers that would work on our design would know that, oh, this is the splash screen. Okay, this is it. So this is what I need to work on. So you can tell them, just go to the Figma page. You'll see a splash screen after you have shared or you have commented them, or you have shared the file to them. So that basically that's what you have here. Now you can also have assets. Immediately you create components or libraries, it starts to show here. So your component starts to show here. Component is a more advanced topic, so we won't go into it now. But your components and your libraries shows up here, and things like the design system. Now another part that you need to be that's very important is the pages. Now you can create multiple pages. So for example, on page 1, I can decide to name this page, say web interface, right? Which means this is where all the work I'm doing about my web interface will be. I can decide to create another page and call it my mood board. This is where all my inspiration would be. I can decide to create another one, call it the mobile interface, right? And this is I can say that this is where it's going to be, and it can go as much as possible. And you can say Apple Watch, and this is my watch interface. You can go as many as possible, but immediately you have a Figma community, a Figma organization file, or a business Figma file. They limit the amount of pages you can create, but if it's personal, it's as free as possible, right? So this is how you create multiple pages, and then you can switch between the page, right? That's that. Then the next part is this part. So this is my draft. This is my account. I can decide to name this design nest port 1, right? So now my page is being saved as design nest port 1, right? And then the last time we talked, before then, so there are other things you can do. You can show version history, which is the same thing you did here. Your file, show version history, and it tells you that, okay, do you want just the red box, right? So you can do that. You can also export. We also did that. Now you can duplicate this old file into a different file. So when you click on duplicate, it creates a new file. You can rename, which is what we did. So when you click on rename, it just comes here and gives you access to changing it. Now you can move your projects. Maybe you are designing in a local file, your personal file. Now you want to move it to your team's page. You can move projects to either your team's page or a new page, right? You can decide to delete this file too. Now to the right side, you can see as many people that are currently on your Figma file here. So say for example, please you guys drop your email address. Please drop your email address on our chat here, so I can invite you to this Figma file. Please drop it here. For some people that I already have, I think I should be able to share with them without an email address. Let me see. Okay. Is this the Adeyinka that we have before? So please drop your email address. yeah, I would invite you guys to the same Figma page so we can all so you guys can see and have and get an invite of what it's going to look like. So now you want to share your Figma file, you can share it to everybody in your company, or even I don't even need that. I can copy the link instead of you guys dropping your email. All you need to do is click on the link, right? And you will join me on the Figma file. So now you guys click on the link and let's be on the same Figma file, right? So now you can see how many people are joining the Figma file. Um, so Figma gives you the opportunity to do multiple things. You can either add someone with their email, you can add people with the link, you can embed the code in an iframe, and all of those things. So now, the thing is, you now get to see people who have joined your Figma file. So all of us can actually work on these things together. You can actually move things. If I give you another thing, another very important thing is when you are the designer in your company and you are sharing your work to the developers, right? There's an option here that says can view, or you want to assign that person as the owner, or you want them to edit the file, right? Now, I can give some people the access to be the owner of this file. I can give some people access to view. I can give some people access to edit, and I can also remove people via my Figma link, right? So I am the owner. I have this all access. For somebody that is just somebody that can view, they can't do all of this. They can't give access to being the owner to somebody else. They can't remove somebody. They can't give access to editing to somebody else, basically. Um, so that's that. I think I will just give some few people edit access and then give them the tags. So now, if I've given you an edit access, most likely the Figma page would reload for itself while you are still on it. So I want to believe you are currently joining. So I would give some few people edit access and I will remove them afterwards from edit access. So we're just going to do a little bit of exercise using the edit access you have. So, but basically that's the on here. Basically, it is your usability test and all of those things. With the present icon, you can it shows like a real interface. It shows like um, a real life scenario of what the application is going to look like, right? So that's what the present is doing for you, basically. And then you can switch your zoom. You can decide to zoom in, zoom out, zoom to 50%. So if I do zoom in, I've gotten to like 100%. If I do zoom out, I've gotten to 50%. I can zoom to 50%. I can zoom to 100%. I can zoom to 200%. Now, some very important things you also need to do um, is pixel preview. You don't need to do most of this, but some people, when they are designing, they design with layout grids. Uh, some design with rulers, right? Some design with outline, right? So you guys get to see everything. So for people that create architecture, right? Architectural students and all of those things, and they want to use this Figma, they can use this outline mode. So you can see the nitty gritty of everything you are currently working on with Figma, basically. Uh, so then you can toggle it off. I don't want outline mode. I want my physical mode. And then there's a ruler. Now, I noticed we also have a class last week on grid system. Now, the good thing about grid, I just need to mention again, the good thing about grid is not just creating the grids, right? Because everybody does it. I want you to understand that when you are using grid in designs, that means you want consistency in your design. So you want the spacing between your left and your right to be the same. You want the spacing between each element to be the same. That's why you use grid system. So now grid is like a block that okay, You know how puzzle works. Now I want to move this design. I want to move this thing. I want to move the next thing, the next tile or the next item into the next tile, right? The grid gives you that access that okay, the next thing you are moving is within that shape, is within that size. So it makes it consistent. So to make your design more consistent, you need to most likely use the grid system as a beginner. So I would advise you guys go home, learn a little bit more about grid system. These are some of the things you learn on your own. Not everybody will teach you, but it is a very important part. Learn to use grid system. It will enable you to have a more consistent design, right? And design consistency is very important when designing. So that's basically everything about this part. Now to the last part, which is your to my far right here, you have three tabs here. You have the design, the prototype, and the inspect. Now I can say these first two are for both designers, and then this third one is for both designers and developers. Basically, what this part does, it's where like the powerhouse of everything is. If you need to change your color, if you need to change your font size, you want to change anything, this is where you do it. This is this design tab. That's where you do all of those things. Now, um, if I am taking my text inside my frame, right, you see that it opens this option. But while it is outside, you don't see this option anymore. But now that it is inside my frame, you see this option. And basically what these things are align elements. They allow you to align items in your page. Now you can decide to align left. That means I want it to go to the left of my page. You can decide to align to the center. So you want it to go to the horizontal center part of my page. I want it to go to the right part of my page. I want it to go to the top part, so the vertical center, right, and then the bottom part of my page. So that's what you do when you align. There are some other parts here that you might see, but let me just show you what it's used for. Because we have just one element here, we do not see the use case. But now, when we have two elements and we group these two elements together, you see that we didn't group it, we aligned it together actually. You see that this is an option here. Now, what it's telling you is, do you want to distribute vertical spacing? That means you want the vertical spacing to be uniform. Now, so I have this thing. The spacing between here and here is 42. So now, the very important part you need to focus when you are designing, because you are never going to be looking at this thing every time. So this thing here is the spacing that you have, right? You can decide to decrease it, you can decide to increase it. Now, for you to know the spacing also, all you need to do is click on one image, hold the alt key in your keyboard, and highlight. Not don't click on the other one. Don't click on the next one. Just move close to it. Be on it, and you will see the spacing between it. So for this one, we have 68. So when we click on both of them, you see that it's the same thing as 68. Now, this one, the spacing between this one and this one is 24. The spacing between this one and this one is 68. Now, I want to show you this distribute vertically. Now, what you can do is tidy up. So when you do tidy up, it gives it the same spacing between all of them, right? So now the spacing between all of them is 46, 46. So now the spacing between this and this is 46. The spacing between this and this is 46. So this one approximated to 45.86, which is why this one approximated to 46. But now this one allows you to see that this is the real spacing between all of them. So that's some of the things you need to do here. You can also distribute horizontal. You can distribute vertically. So that's some things. So this is the X. This is the Y. And basically this is the size. So to the X axis, 46 inches close to the X axis. So when I click on my Alt key or my option on my Mac, I see that from my point here, from the text point here to the X-axis, which is this side, I am 46. Now, from the X-axis to my top part, I am 167, and that is why you see 46 and 167. Now, the size of my item itself, it is 578 by 70. How can we confirm? So let's create a rectangle and let's confirm that. So now I think our rectangle and this guy is supposed to be the same thing. So we have 578 and this one is 579, 70, and this one is 74. That means we increased it a bit. Oh, okay. Uh, but I think you get the gist. So this guy here tells us the size. Now the size that he's telling us is not the size of the item inside only, because it's inside a frame, right? It is sitting inside a frame. You can notice that this thing has a frame, right? It's telling us the size of the frame, basically, not the size of the element inside of it. You are going to understand this better if we see icons. So for sometimes when we import icons into our Figma file, um, we see that the size of the icon is 24 by 24. But when we click the icon inside of it, you see that maybe it's 16, right? So the thing is, the icons also has a frame, right? That they all sit inside. So basically, it's giving us the size of the frame, not the size of the item inside. So for this one is 578, and then you can also decide to rotate it. You can decide to rotate it anyhow you want, right? And then there's constraints. I would say let's leave constraints for now. It's a little bit more advanced, so we don't get too much information. There's also a layer. Should we go inside layer? No. We should also do layer when we're talking about colors mainly. And then there's text. Now, I want to change the size of my text. I can come here. Basically, I can change the size here to 36. It reduces the size. I can change the width. I can make it light. I can make it condensed. I can make it regular. I can make it condensed medium italics, right? And you see that the font weight changes, right? Um, so that's some of the things you can do. And then also, if you have multiple text, for example, you can decide to align it. Yeah, you can decide to align it to the center, to the right, to the left. But the best part, you should always align your text is to the left, because people read from left to right, right? If I'm reading things, I read from the right, from my left down to my right, come back to my left to my right. So there's what we call the F-shaped reading format, right? So we read like this. We read like this, F shape. I think. Let me see. Yeah, the F shape reading pattern. So this is how the human read item. Look at this format. This is how basically we read item. We go from here. We go from here down to this part. We come back down to this part. We come back down to this part, and then we come to the last part. Right. So that's why anytime we write in school, you see we write from the left and come back. Right. So that's what we call the F shape pattern of reading, basically. Yeah. So yeah, you can align your items to the left and to the right. Now there's another part. There's what we call the line height. Now for things like this, when we want to increase the space between these two guys, we use the line height, and basically it just increases it. The default you should always use, the most advisable one you should always use, it should be 140%, right? So that gives it like um, the regular uh, spacing between two texts. It gives it time, it gives it space to breathe. It gives your design space to breathe, or your text space to breathe between each other. It's not choked up, right? So people can read these things. So 140 should be the regular one. Then you can also, there's the letter spacing. You can also increase your letter spacing. Maybe you wanted to have more space, you can increase it, and you see that the space between two letters are increased currently. So basically, that's what you use the line height and the letter spacing to do. Um, there are some other parts that you might need to explore, but I think we should stop here so we can do a little bit more practical into Figma. Uh, or maybe we should just go on. Let me get feedback. Are we still here? Do we have any questions so far? Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Not like a question, some sort of observation based on what you were saying the other time. Now, if we head back to the text, you were saying that the height it was given is not the actual height. So
The
while
height
we're
like what?
like the height of the text, when we're looking at it, where we have the width and the height, you were
Yeah.
saying the text is like it's inside a frame.
Yes,
So I
basically.
was thinking it's giving an estimate of the based on the text you had there before. It didn't have a font that has like a descender. So if you use if assuming you type something that has like a descender there, I think it touches that baseline that we have there, or it doesn't.
Oh yeah. So for things like
I was thinking
this,
that like estimate.
so for things like this,
Yeah,
um, but regardless of it, it still gives it
it's
a frame. Yeah. Regardless of it, it's always in a frame.
how about the line height?
The line height.
Yeah, can the line height affect the size of the frame?
Oh yeah, definitely it would.
Oh,
Can you see?
okay.
Yeah, it increases it. So you can decide to make it 120, right? And you see that it's very minimal right now.
Yeah.
So it's affecting the frame, not the text itself, right?
Okay.
If I use 80, for example, you'll see that the size of the text has not changed, but the line height, but the frame now has changed. Do you understand?
Okay. Yeah.
Do we have any other question before we go on? Any other question? All right, let's move on. So that's the basic things you need to know about text and all. Now, if you need to change colors, you can click on this guy. You can change the color to this, or decide to change the color, or decide to add a color code to 0000 and this is black, or you can say green, right? And when you click on it, it gives you the green color, or you can say red and it gives you the red color. And then you can also change the color um, X here from hex to RGB. This is called color what again? It's a color variation or something. I can't remember. But yeah, you can decide to change if you are somebody that uses RGB for your colors. Yeah, you can decide to use this. But the best one that is most advisable is X, right? So just stick to X. And yeah, that's it. So you can do all of that. I don't want us to go too deep into all of these things. But then you can also reduce the opacity of your color. You can change it to 50%, you can change it to 10% to make it a little bit lighter, and all of those things. You can decide to toggle off the color. So there's nothing in your element is there, but you can't see it because the color is toggled off. You can decide to remove a color and add a new color to it, right? Then you can also decide to add strokes. So strokes are like lines between your elements. So you can add strokes to anything. It could be your rectangle, it could be your square shape, it could be your triangle. You can add a stroke to anything, basically. Um, and then you can also increase the size of your strokes. Uh, you can decide if your stroke should be inside or outside. You can decide to be in the center, and then you can also decide to make your stroke rounded, half break or a square stroke. And you can also decide to make it a dashed stroke with some spacing. Right? Yeah, just to customize your text and everything. So that's basically some of the things you can do with strokes and all of those things. So let's remove that. And then you can also add effects. For now, I would say don't use this at all. This is shadow. For some designs, you might want to use shadow, but for now, it is more advisable to stick to solid shapes. Yeah, I think we have covered most of the things. We've talked about exports. Um, yeah, so I think we already have an understanding of what Figma actually does. So let me do this. Uh, do we really understand how Figma works right now? Does this introduction into Figma gives us an understanding of Figma itself? Our number is reducing drastically. What's happening? There's no lights. Nice, nice. I like the fact that we all understand we are getting this. Uh, yeah, very nice. So this is what we'll do. We basically need to have one session where we'll just do a little bit of design, where we need to bring everything we've done so far into one place. Now, for my web interface, right, this is what you guys will do for me. Let, let me write this as an assignment. Now, the first assignment you guys will do is create your own page with your name, right? So you create your own page, like what we created here, but now with your own name, right? On this same Figma file, create your own page with your name, um, create basic shapes with the shape tools, change change the colors, change the size, and then add a text to it. Also change the size of the text, manipulate. When I mean manipulate, it means change the color, the size, and everything, not just the size now, or not just the color alone. So the size, the line height, let it show in the design process. Now, yeah. What else? What else? What else? What else? What else? And everything should be done inside a frame. Inside a frame. So basically, this is assignment one for today. Basically. All right. Also, name your frame. All right. That's cool. So now the next thing we need to do is bring everything that we have mentioned today and let's use it to make an interface. Now, what do we want to create? Let's create something very minimal, nothing serious, right? Let's create let's create something. I think what we can create is Monpay, a fast and simple way to buy and sell crypto. Okay, so let's create a crypto mobile app design. So now, this part that we're currently getting into is what we call the part of inspiration. We need to get inspiration. 90% of the time, any ideas you are creating, somebody has created something similar, right? And you don't need to do the whole work of creating things that somebody has created from the ground up yourself. So the good thing is there are inspirations online, things like Dribble, Behance, Pinterest, right? Envision.com